Shalom. Before I begin, I'd like to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Ruach Kodash. I'd like to say double honors to my teachers, the apostles, bishops, and elders of Great Millstone, the men whom I've learned this truth from. And I'd also like to say Shalom and salutations to the elect that's out there preaching His word in truth and sincerity. Alright, I'm the brother Shaquat from the branch of Great Millstone, Montreal. Back once again with another lesson. And this is going to be a brief lesson, just going into something that was mentioned in a video I was watching, and it sparked the idea for this lesson. And that was basically the fact that this, the truth, the ministry of Yahweh Shema Shai, the work that Yahweh Shai left behind is, it's not supposed to be marketed in the sense of, in the worldly sense, right? In the worldly sense, because when you take a look at the world, everything basically centers around buying and selling, transactions and so on and so on and so forth, right? Money, commerce. But I forgot what that saying was, but the elder apostle Tahar had recently done a video on it. Quiet, something like that. I forgot the statement, but it basically goes to show that you do one thing for another, and another person does one thing for you. So it's like not a yin and a yang, but a transaction, for lack of better words, man. Because the elder apostle Tahar was going into how a man and the dynamic between a man and a woman, right? And what the woman was, what the man provides for the woman is what she does is basically the man protects the woman. He provides protection, refuge, safety, and so on and so forth. And then the woman's, with what she would also provide comfort for the man, a cushion, for lack of better words, and her goods and all things that she has to offer, right? Her, breasts, or whatever, sex, and so on and so forth, But that's a damn, I can't remember the phrase that the elder apostle Tahar used. Something, but it was just basically going into an interaction, not an interaction, a transaction, between two parties, where both parties gained from it, But with that being said, what the point I wanted to make is that this truth, you can't sell it. You can't treat it like it's a worldly business. You can't treat it like it's a worldly business, meaning you can't basically use the ministry to profit yourself. You can't use the ministry to gain money for yourself. If I just want to simplify it, because you do have men that are doing that, and that's not what you're supposed to do. That's not how Yahweh Shai commanded us to basically further and advance His ministry, His business. Precept that comes to mind is buy the truth and sell it not, right? So obtain the truth, but don't sell it. Don't make people pay for it, man. Just give it out for free. Because freely we received, freely give, man. It's not our possession. And we don't have a say on how we want it done, right? This was entrusted to us by the Lord Yahweh Shai. And He left explicit instructions on how He wanted this business to be furthered and advanced, man. But then obviously, of course, you have men that corrupt corrupt the ways that Yahweh Shai wants it to be done. And that's going off. That's not well pleasing in the sight of Yahweh Shema Shai. You're ultimately gonna have to pay for that. So yeah, you're not supposed to make or center the ministry, your whole ministry, around gaining money from your congregation. That's not the right spirit to be in, man. You know, yeah, we have a tithing system, but it's not to profit us. That's not being forced and uplifted. We're not forcing people to, the tithes, passing the basket around. You know, that's not what you're supposed to be doing. It's supposed to be out of the person's free will that they want to give tithes. You know, and there's countless examples, not just within the Israelite community, but also in the world, man. You have the Christian church, you know, that are doing that. They pass around the basket, enforcing tithes, you know. Pretty sure all these other religions do the same or something similar, but I'm not sure. But I'm pretty sure, man. You know, and that's corrupt. That's not sincere. You know, it doesn't show sincerity, man. It just shows corruption. You know, and I'm speaking to myself first and foremost, but it's not good. You're not in the right spirit if you are centering this ministry around gaining money. You know, if you want to gain money through the ministry of Yahushua, it doesn't work like that, man. It's not supposed to be done like that, right? You know, selling breakdowns. You know, give me $100 and I'll tell you what this means. You know, buy my T-shirt. If you pay me $150, I'll give you a Hebrew name, or I'll anoint you. I'll give you a prayer. You know, charging people for those things is, you're not in the right spirit, but you know, what if a person can't afford that? Now they can't get a prayer. You know, they can't get an anointing. They can't get a Hebrew name. If you don't have money, you know. So that just shows, man. It's like you're not in the right spirit, man. You know, because what did Yahushua say? Yahushua said he came for those that weren't whole. He came for those that were broken, man. He came for the poor, those that needed help, right? You know? So yeah, man, you know, Lord willing, this lesson was edifying. It was quick. I hope the elect was edified through this lesson. I'm going to say, Call Halayim La Yahweh, Bahashim Yahushai, Bahashim Rachakodash. Once again, I'd like to give double honors to my teachers, the apostles, bishops, and elders of Great Millstone. And as always, man, shalom to the elect.